Yeah.
And there's a lot from our policy, so just a.
The email you sent on Tuesday, I cannot open the doc. I don't know if you can resend it. I have not been able to open it.
Which, was that the agenda?
It was the agenda, yeah.
Sure.
I just want to make sure.
So is this what we're supposed to do?
Yes. Yeah, the email is an agenda with hyperlinks. If you can't get to the hyperlinks, you need to sign into Board Docs first, and then the links will open.
Maybe that.
That will.
I was having trouble just opening the PDF.
Oh, okay. All right, so the first one we have is the non-discrimination. They did the revision, and I went through and just put the notes up there to make this as fast as we can, because there are a lot. There's 140 some pages to get through. We did the revision of this one based on the National Incident Reporting System, changing the definition of fondling change. So there's a couple changes to those words that are in there. Any questions? And a lot of these are just simply, I took what we had and put in our choices if we redid them. So our original, and just kind of updated them along the way. So nothing to.
Yeah, it's my understanding Dan's done this with other districts, so
Yeah, he said
if
this
there's
is-
anything in particular that you've come across, just chime in.
I will. No, everything looks good. This is, it's consistent with our current policy 2266. It has the updated definition for sexual criminal contact, and all the choices are good choices that you made.
Changed names too as we went through. So changed. It had Chuck and Cheryl, put Mallory in from
Not me. Okay.
to kind of update it and do all that. The next one changes some extracurricular options, keeping ours basically to our own students, not opening extracurricular activities for homeschool students. Not necessarily that they can, but other STEM schools who don't have them. There was a provision about hockey too. We don't have hockey, so that stayed out as well. Keeping consistent to what we have. And that was based on, all the rest of these are based on the budget bill. So House Bill 96 is the budget bill. So all the athletics and that kept it to what we had in terms of our eligibility, our policies, who can participate, all of those. So when you look at that, 5136 is the cell phone policy. That's officially consistent with what we currently do in our current practice. We left it at, the law does state in 51 in that budget bill that principal approved devices or some sort of approved uses, we wanted to keep it to that level, so authorized devices. And the things we authorize them for are translation for our ELL students. Very limited, so it's translation for ELL students, it's for things like, I'm blanking on it because they're so medical has to be in there as well.
There's accommodations for kids on
IEPs,
IEPs,
504s, photography, so photos for like art portfolios, things like that, under the guides, nothing other than that, and it is truly from when they walk in to when they walk out. We had feedback has been great. Kids are following, kids are talking to one another. We are having some issues in large group settings, lunch and study hall. Kids are trying to sneak through, but other than that, having them phones with them really good.
When you say feedback from
teachers.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know having a 16-year-old,
Mhm.
he says he doesn't care, like he's not even been bothered by it.
Our students have adjusted. We've had some mad Uno tournaments going on right now.
Nice.
So, and our teachers have brought back things like Uno and checkers and chess and allow kids
Good.
to do that as well. So
Good.
Do they park their phones in the lockers or?
Our students don't use lockers, so they're just out of sight.
Yeah,
So
just
that's,
out of sight.
we just look for out of sight and off. And it's worked out really well.
And where you said we've kept the policy based on what we've had, it's because it's more, we have additional, right? Like, I'm gonna use, eligibility as an
Mhm.
example, right? So we at least meet the state minimum.
We at least
but-
meet the minimum, and then we add to it,
Right.
I think we add a GPA
Right.
requirement as well.
So
We
we're
are-
at least meet the state minimum or
Yes, and
more,
then we're
depending
above,
on what,
yes.
okay.
On this, Chris, we might wanna just look at the or possession option.
Okay.
Just maybe not to do that, because it sounds like the kids are allowed to have the phones on them, but just out of sight.
You know.
Okay.
So I wouldn't select or
Does
possession.
that take more possession
Yeah.
off? Okay.
Yeah. But it looks great.
So attendance, the next one, they've changed the rules a lot in the new House bill, and this is one that we tried to meet, as we went and walked through it, working through what this attendance policy looks like, our calls, that sort of thing. We still wanna notify parents when students aren't in school, when those hours have kind of ramped themselves up. But we want this to be more of a, coming together and a really true intervention, to get our students to school, and not just, hey, we're following the law and notifying. So we've worked through some of those to get that through. The one change that they've talked about a lot is they've added, so they've said, hey, we don't want you to be absent, but they've added you can miss school for driving. So, and that's in the law, so that we've added a provision for students can miss 2 hours no more than 4 days a week, or 4 days for 8 hours of time to driving classes, provided that it's not a core curriculum subject course. So anyone who's scheduled driving courses, it's a challenge to get them in, let alone schedule them in when you don't have core classes. But that's one of the things that we had to add, so we did add that. Really still working to make sure we have these intervention teams, and these teams are working to make sure we have students who come to school from the excessive absence piece of it. So. Notifications are pretty much the same, and they'll look the same. There'll be more of the team getting together, and the courts are back involved a lot more. The 96 did bring the courts back into it, which for Lake County worked rather well when they were involved.
So with the attendance for like driver's ed, do we have to have proof, I'm gonna use for lack of a better word, like a doctor's note when they go to a doctor's appointment, or we request?
I would assume,
Okay.
we haven't had anyone who's come in with that. In fact, I've actually just went through with my own son scheduling his in-cars, and they said, well, you know, it's excused now, and I said, yeah, no, we're not doing that, so find another time. But they're using that as, and they said, well, it's excused, but it's only excused during core time, and it doesn't work like that. He doesn't have a 2-hour block where he doesn't have core instruction. So trying to find that is a challenge. And I think it's kind of the way that you schedule courses. I don't know how many students have the luxury of 2 hours, unless it's like the end of the day study hall where they can miss the 80 minutes and then carry on after that.
Yeah.
But it's not working, I think, like they had thought that it would. For now, we'll see where it comes from. We talked about religious instruction during the school day. That's the next one that's coming up. That just works with. That's just our LifeWise policy, which we are putting in practice, kind of spells it out a little bit more. Drafting it, we kept it to what we had talked about, not during core instruction, basically during advisory working with them, and that we are requiring that everyone be background checked, and we would provide with those background checks, as we do with any person who works with our students. Promotion, acceleration, placement, and retention, that came out of 96 as well. Changes some of them, some of the requirements that are there, but nothing that was really kind of triggering. We put the recommended days and times in for appeals and all of that they asked for. And used the exact same options that we had prior. So nothing of substance changed in that. 6109 is a new policy that we're recommending, and it talks specifically about credit card payments. We accept credit card payments, so they ask that we have a policy to talk about how we accept credit card payments and what that looks like. Technical corrections to 6152 to talk about fees, fines, and changes to include the credit card acceptance as well. The next one is a policy regarding an audit. This one I ran through Dr. Thompson to make sure he was okay with what that is. It takes the, at the expiration, it adds that at the bottom, at the expiration of the term of the treasurer CFO before the board approves the surety of the treasurer CFO, the board shall require the treasurer to produce all money, bonds, and other securities to the board, and then shall be counted by the board or a committee. I think it used to be counted by the auditor.
Used to be able to send it to the auditor.
Yes, used to be able to send it to the auditor, and now it's in-house, so
That's right.
to make sure that the money's there that is supposed to be there. So that was the change in 96. That required that one. Digital content and accessibility is the next one. This really talks about the website, making sure that our website is accessible to all. It's an accessibility issue. If it's not, who they go to complain about that and to file, and that would be Nick, to make sure that we have that in the timelines that we have to get it so that all of our information is accessible. So it works on digital accessibility. Electronic data, we are rescinding that one because it is, the recommendation to rescind it because it is covered in another policy that deals with a lot more cybersecurity attacks, ransomware, that sort of thing. Continuity of the operations plan talks about cybersecurity and what happens and all of that. And this again, there's a lot of choices. Those choices we had a plan. Those choices were blended in what we had prior. In there. Next is informational security and what we do with that, talking about different levels of security and basically individuals associated through the district, communication vendor, kind of who has what PII. So this is the information about private information, who lists it, where the lists are, how we control it, you know, that we are going to control it and make sure that it's there. It is a large item in the technical side of things and in the IT, and that we have provisions to make sure that we protect our students and our employees' identifiable information.
And one thought, once the board has passed this as a policy, then I would have Dr. Thompson share it with our insurance company,
Okay.
just to let them know, because I'm sure we have cyber security
We do.
coverage. To let them know about our programming, and then internally, the challenge, of course, is now that it's a policy, we're gonna have to follow it.
Yes.
So, I mean, House Bill 96 did a lot of really good things. I think this is one of them, but this is a lot of work.
So this is one of the challenges that we have in terms of we are scaling back some of the program, I don't use the word programming, but some of the apps and all the other educational softwares that are out there. There's a lot of, they do a lot of free things. Well, they're not free, they're giving out information. So scaling that back, what we share information with, going through a process that it has to be vetted, that we have to have a agreement on site that they're going to actually safeguard our PI. If we don't have that, we pull it back, we have to have some other licensure that comes up. And there's a lot of bigger companies that are pushing back against this, so pulling, and that we use currently. So it's been a challenge with some of our instructional staff to kind of say, hey, you can't use this at all. And so pulling it back, and we have to find something different. So we are working with them to say, we have other options to do it. The advanced or the upgraded Google and the upgraded Magic School are helping with that significantly. And we know we control those and what's in there, so that it's making a big difference. With that, school safety changes, the crisis line, basically what we're doing with some of that, the suicide crisis line, making sure we include that. That's out of 96 and a nuance in there, so we added that.
Yeah, I think the key legal takeaway in that school safety policy is that the EMP now has to have some provision for cell phone use by
Yes.
students in an emergency. Obviously, it's prohibited under 5136,
But
now you gotta
so
somehow.
when they wrote that, the parents, the biggest, well, I want my child to notify me in an emergency. So if there were an emergency to occur, you lift the cell phone ban and it then blocks the cell signal towers and everything else. But there's that feeling of, well, of safety. That's when you put them in the lockers, you know, that's one of the things. Okay, you have to store them in the lockers or store them away, but then you can't get to them. Same thing with the bags. If you have this in and you have those yonder bags, now everyone has to have a locked station in their classroom so that they can unlock them for kids. So I think the way we're doing the cell phone policy is more conducive with this. If this were to happen, we hope it never does. But if it were, that is kind of the case. Student abuse and neglect is the next one, kind of looking forward to where we're at with that. That's just some changes in terms of curriculum of public or private practices involved in suicide awareness and prevention of child abuse. I think this is the one that used to have to be approved by law enforcement, and now it's just we have to continue to offer that training, so we changed some of that.
That's right, most of it makes sense.
That one. Transportation for non-routine trips. This is, this one, there's so many nuances in some of these, but this one just, I again selected the options that we currently have, the basic updates to what we're charging for, what we're not, and what we're providing for field trips and that. Basically, we're assuming the transportation costs for all their trips, including co-curricular or other extracurricular trips, if we have that into the policy now that we share with. Read the last one already? Wow. And then the last one is equivalent education outside the schools and participation in extracurricular for students not enrolled in the district. This is the one that definitely included, this includes home education students, and specifically, the specific language in 96 was that home education students may participate in the JROTC program at their school. We currently don't offer a JROTC program, so this is moot to us, but you have to have it in the policy, so that's why it was recommended we put in there. So if we were to offer one, we would offer it to home education students. It's similar to we offer our homeschooled students opportunities to participate in sports, on the sports teams if they wanted to, and in others. So that's where this policy is coming from.
I was gonna say, we're pretty inclusive, I think, in that area.
We
right?
are.
Like, yeah.
We absolutely are. We've had a couple who I think are even attending homecoming this Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think for our homeschool students, we're providing them some opportunities. And that's the run of those. Any questions on those, other than the one to the cell phone, that slight change? And then 44.1, the non-discrimination policies, they're about 20 pages each. And they deal, and I think what Neola did was try to simplify it, was how I read this. And they might have made it a little more simplified, but they've also taken it and, made the three policies pretty complex in where they are. So this was their attempt to combine all of the muddiness in our non-discrimination, anti-harassment, things that deal with Title IX and sexual discrimination and all of that into one. There are three policies based on the statute, where they sit in the handbook, but they're pretty much the same. So what I did for all of them is I printed them out and made sure that the language in the boxes were checked equally. And that was quite a task. And then remove the drafts and notes. But, I guess, Dan, this is where I have the question for you. For your, we've left in the option to appeal at the end. And I guess I'd weigh in on, should we do that? That was the question I had for it, kind of. The option to appeal, it's an option, you can appeal the outcome and or, it's the outcome and the discipline, correct?
There's 4 grounds for the appeal. So it could be a procedural mistake, it could be new evidence, it could be they disagree with the outcome or the penalty, or it could be a conflict of interest.
Right.
You don't have to have all of those, but I would make them the same in all of them.
Right,
This
so
is
we,
what you have.
so I wanted to make them the same, and I think the appeal.
I think it's on page 15, at least in the lower right-hand corner of that number.
So part of my appeal decision, and we left in procedure irregularity, which I think makes sense. If we do it wrong, that's absolute appeal. New evidence, and then the designated investigator, decision maker at a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I think striking D makes sense.
Mhm.
That's, would be my preferred approach, only because I don't feel like it's appropriate to the proceeding to question the judgment call of what the right level of discipline is. I feel like that's your professional judgment as superintendent, and to say, well, it should have been less or it should have been more, depending on what your perspective is. I just don't think that's appropriate for the appeal. But I really like that you selected the appeal as a procedural step here. I think it's critical for due process. And I've seen over and over again that it actually does, even though it's a little extra work, tend to lead to some closure. So I think you made the right choices.
The other one that I did put is that they cannot challenge the ultimate disciplinary sanction consequence that's imposed. That's not, that's a part of it, I think, the process of administrative discretion. But if we're not doing the process right, or if there's truly other evidence or something, I think that comes up. So, any questions on that? And are we in agreement on those changes? And then we have, so then the next section of that, the 22 section, .02 are rescind because of the new one. The 22 did put it in there, and then there are some technical corrections as well into the other ones. So just making some of that. So those are the 3, they're kind of like the 3 series that go through. So it's 16, or it's the 1000s, the 2000, 1000s, 2000, 3000, and 4000 series all in there. So all of those policies cover basically the same. Any questions?
So, Dr. Taylor, there's a lot here, like you said. So now, once the policy's in place, like what's the plan as far as procedures or any changes? Like you already mentioned, like the technology one, the information security, like we gotta make some changes.
So with the policies come a group of administrative guidelines that we will go through, and once now we have the policy language kind of set,
Mhm.
we'll go through and look at the administrative guidelines, and I will approve those and set those up there, and then we will send out and work with our administrators to say, and we've already done a lot of it.
Yeah.
We've talked about the cell phone, we've talked about a lot of kind of, some of the larger things that are in here to say these are coming or these are available, we let those kind of go. Mr. Renwick is really working on all the technology provisions that are in there in terms of backup and cybersecurity and ransomware and training, and one of his goals is to actually get certified. There's called the NIST certification, and he's to get certified in cybersecurity so that he can kind of know what those are to give us that extra level of protection. But then it's changing practices. So it's putting things out and saying, and starting with teaching, and this is why you can't do this, and this is why we have to change this, and then you ramp it up as you go, so.
Yeah, I think it's getting back to that also, we have to look at old lessons, things that we've sent out in the past, right? That we just
Absolutely.
can't
Links.
recycle things, we need to make
Yes.
sure they're the right links or whatever to be sending out.
And then a lot of that is working with not only our principals, but also union leadership as well to help convey that message.
Right.
And we've got a great relationship where we are doing a lot of that, even with, I think to start with, even like cell phones is a great example. So when we started off with the cell phone policy and started from the beginning of the year, what we did then is ask our teachers to model that as well. So between students can't use them, we understand that, but then we also ask teachers to model that in the building in front of students. We understand that emergencies come up and you have your plan time and all that, but when you're in front of students and doing things, please stay off your phones. Please find other ways to do things with your phones and use them for approved messages. Like pictures, we've approved that, so you can, but not necessarily for texting or that sort of. So, and for the most part, they've embraced it as well.
Right.
So. Okay, anything else? I think we just approved 140 some pages of changes in record time.
In record time.
Yeah.
I think the majority of them are,
The
House bill
majority of-
driven, we
yeah,
can't do
the majority of them
anything,
are
right?
just
So-
tweaks to regulations that we have and
yeah,
combining what we do.
right, and I think then that's where it becomes more important about the administrative guidelines, like how are we
Absolutely.
gonna reinforce these things, so.
Yep.